Hey there, welcome to the channel. Special thanks to these guys for comment on our video. Today, we're diving into the erotic movie known as Crash. Crash movie directed and written by David Cronenberg. The movie stars James Spader as the main character. This web series full of twists has an IMDb rating of 6.4 out of 10. So without further ado, let's get to the main story. Before we jump into the details, make sure to show us some love by liking the video, leaving a comment, and, of course, subscribing to the channel if you're into the commentary. Now, let's get right into it. At the beginning of the movie, in an aircraft hangar, opposite the plane, Catherine is seen being intimate with a man. Meanwhile, in a film set camera room, producer James Ballard was having sex with a camera girl on a table. On the other hand, when the scene shifts, Catherine and James are shown. Both of them are in an open marriage. These two were not satisfied with their physical relationship. Both have done a lot, but still both are not happy as they expected from this relationship. Because these two were having an extra relationship outside despite being in an open marriage. They want to get more physical to fix their relationship. So they share the intimate details of their extra affair. Catherine says she was engaged to a stranger and tells James all the details. She also tells James that she still couldn't be satisfied. James then told her he was engaged to his co-worker and he was not satisfied. Catherine then tells him that you will be satisfied next time. James then takes Catherine and becomes intimate with her. Many nights when James is driving home against the small Toronto freeway traffic to the apartment. Then his focus was more on office documents than driving. Then his car collided with a railing. James tries to control the car's speed but the car collides with another car. The man in the other car was involved in the accident dies. He has the imprint of the bonnet mark on his hand. Then the wife of James' passenger was watching him from her car. She unbuckles her seat belt and exposes a part of her body to James. Her name is Dr. Helen. James realizes he's here to frame her. This is being done. Then we can see James being brought to the hospital where James's wife Catherine has come to meet him. And here we know from their words that it is an airport hospital. The ward that James is in is made for air cash people. Catherine tells him that the dead man's wife's name is Dr. Helen. You will see him when you go for a walk. When James saw Helen, he asked what his husband was doing. Helen then tells her that her husband was a chemical engineer for a food company. Dr. Helen is shown a worn-out look as she walks stiffly with her own injuries. A man in white overalls takes pictures of auto crash injuries and begins to examine James's injuries with great interest. His name is Robert. When Catherine comes back to see James, she says she found out everything about the date passenger. Back home, Catherine stands on the balcony with James and starts watching the traffic on the road. James then tells him that when his accident happened there were 3 times as many cars as normal. This means that everything was planned here. James then went to check the car again. Then Helen came in. Helen tells him that she has come to see her husband Charles' car. He then approaches James and tells him he doesn't want his car anymore. He's also willing to pay to have it scrubbed. James offers her a lift on the road and Helen says she is going to the airport. The doctor's family died here. When the doctor's family comes to know that he is dead, his patients will not accept him. Here, James looks at Helen's clothes and says that it is not right for her to wear these clothes whose husband is still dead. Helen says, I do whatever I want. Helen tells James your car looks like an old car. Here James was starting to lose control again but Helen was able to handle the car. Helen then tells him that the airport garage is empty at the moment. There won't be too many people, the two can make out there. After reaching the garage, the two made physical contact. Now the affair has started between the two of them. But both wanted to know why they were so nervous about their car. They felt that Dr. Robert had the answer to all these things. So they both went to Dr. Robert's car meeting. James had recognized Robert as a man at the hospital several weeks earlier. Robert and his 2 stunt drivers, Colin Seagrave, reenact the accident without Trask's safety gear. Seeing a small crowd, 2 cars collide head-on at high speed. Trask finds Robert struggling painfully out of the wrecked Porsche, but Seagrave, who was driving him, is only semi-conscious. Over the PA speakers, Robert announces that James Dean died of a broken neck and became immortal. Where Robert fixes the car accident. Here he uses authentic cars and robot drivers. And James Dean died in the car accident he arranged. He was giving directions as James and Helen watched. James told Helen I thought it would be a medical photographer. Because he was taking out the details of the accident one by one. Helen tells him that when I first met Robert, he was in the international traffic system. Here Robert calls some volunteers and gives the details of the car crash. Meanwhile, the transport department officer reaches there. Just then, police sirens are heard as the crowd disperses. He meets James and Helen as Dr. Robert flees. The three then start to escape here together, and after a while they reach Robert's black Lincoln convertible. As Robert leaves the scene, James watches with curiosity as Robert fingers Helen. After a while, Robert, Helen and James arrive at an abandoned house. Vera Seagrave was tending to her husband's injuries, when Calipered crash victim Gabriel offered everyone joints to smoke. Gradually, James's interest in Robert began to grow. James became a follower after seeing the way Dr. Robert clicked all the car accident photos and videos. Then he started watching some of his videos and watching the traffic stuff, the way Robert photographed them one by one. The way Robert used to photograph famous people's car accidents made James a fan of Robert. Robert's assistant James Kay says Robert uses his talent to turn any accident into a crime scene. Here Robert was listening to his praise. On the other hand, Catherine follows them and reaches there. Here we learn that Catherine often follows Robert. Even today he followed Robert there. James asks Robert what his project is. Why is he doing these things? Robert tells him that he wants to reshape the human body with modern technology. The next day, when Catherine left with her car, James followed. Then Robert was following Catherine with his car. At night when Catherine and James are intimate, she then tells James that she likes Robert. The next night, James and Robert drive to Robert's Lincoln convertible, where Robert shows off the photography. That's how he photographed different accidents. Here Robert picks up a Russian and they get intimate in the back seat of the car. Then driving around the airport's perimeter road, James connects Robert's Lincoln convertible to the 1963 JFK assassination. The car accident is a fertilizing rather than a destructive event, a release of the sexual energy of those who have died, with an intensity that would be impossible in any other form, Robert tells him. It is clear that Robert's real desire is to experience the ultimate existence. He picks up the airport hooker and gets intimate with James in the back seat. The next night, Robert takes James to do photography. Catherine follows Robert there as well. Robert invites her to go with them. Then the three reach there together. Here a car is shown. Here they see Coolan. Coolan was a member of Robert's group. Here he was authentically recreating a car accident. Was doing photography. Robert also joins him here. After some time the three see a dead body. Robert took a picture of this thing too. On their return, Robert finds that a car has scratched their car, so they go to the car wash to avoid a police case. Here Robert and Catherine are engaged in the back seat of the car. James sees everything from the outside. Another day later, James and Catherine drive off in separate cars. At an intersection, Robert draws a sketch behind Catherine's silver sports car and follows aggressively before turning off the road. When James takes her from behind one more time, she gets Robert in on the act by asking if James wants to have sex with her in the car. James turned back with slight annoyance. As Catherine and James leave the studio, James tells Catherine more about Robert's underground subculture. Robert arrives to pick them up when the police question Robert about the death of a pedestrian near the airport. James was driving his car on the local freeway. Robert, James and Catherine encounter a multi-vehicle accident. Robert takes the crash photography, then stages it further using Catherine as a model. A few days later, Robert invited James to see a tattooist. Here's the tattooist doing the car envelope look on Robert's body art. James then gets very excited to see the tattoo. He kisses the tattoo. In Robert's car, two people are highly engaged. Gabriel was also among Robert's group. He had a tattoo of a female private part on his tie back. This tattoo was made for an accident. James now feels arousal seeing Gabrielle. As James drives around the airport, Robert's car appears out of nowhere. While toying with James' sports car, she falls into a delirium, accidentally veers over a parapet before crashing into a coach below. James stops and surveys the carnage as Robert lies dead in the rubble. The next morning, Gabriel and Helen visit Robert's wrecked Lincoln, where they begin making out with each other and have a lesbian affair in the backseat of Robert's car. A few days later, Catherine tells James that someone has scratched her car. She says she doesn't know if it was an accident or something else. James takes a good look at it and realizes that it was Robert who did it. Then Catherine and Robert left in their car. The next day James decides to go to the pound to retrieve Robert's car. He drives the Lincoln as recklessly as Robert on the open road. Catherine also overtakes many vehicles behind, her car moving on the road ahead. James crashes his car, then runs off the road and down an embankment. James stumbles and falls. He sees Catherine lying on the ground, her car crashed, alive but seriously injured, her skirt around her waist. Ballard lays down next to her, caressing her bloody body, and when she says she's fine, he takes her from behind again, and they're intimate again on the grassy embankment. And this is where the movie ends. I hope you all like the story of the Crash movie. If you like it, please like the video. And if the story of the movie is bad, then write it in the comment box. Thanks for watching.